Welcome to this video. Today we're going to be doing a stock analysis on Indra Sistemas. Now, if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, for those of you who don't know, Indra Sistemas is a Spanish company that focuses on defense and aerospace industries. Now, let's take a look at the graph and I'll go over the fundamentals later. Now, the graph, as you can see, is quite nice. We recently had this golden cross here on the 20th of February. And it continued up, and a reason I think I want to highlight is, look at this, they had a negative earnings. The earnings was 7.4% down, but look at the day of the earnings, it increased. This is quite interesting because how often do you see bad earnings but you see the stock increase? Very rarely. That is why this is very interesting. Also, just take a look at the graph over time. It has had a bit of a downfall ever since June in 24, but now it is coming back to previous heights. It's actually at an all-time high at the moment. Now the stock here, as you can see, is also trading quite nicely in the RSI. Now if it's above 50 in the RSI and below 70, that is the upper channel, which is very nice. This is where we want to be most of the time. But recently we've had a lot of outbreaks up here in the upper RSI, which means that it is overbought, showing increased upwards momentum. This is also why we see it spike like so and why we have these huge gaps in the graphs. Now a gap in a graph like this only appears when before the market opens there is so much buying potential that it simply jumps the graphs. This is very, very good. Sometimes, if it happens a lot of times in a row, this means that even though it jumps a lot, is not sell-offs. Often, when you see big spikes, there is going to be sell-offs. So, let's take this for example. Was at a pre-market open, and it opened up here. Now, oftentimes we would see it fall a bit like to this point. It hasn't, and it even all the time increased and increased and increased. This is very good technicals. Now, if we take a look at the much broader graph here, as you can see, let me make this bigger. Let me put it to a day. You can see it has been a bit choppy all the way back from 24, so it does bounce a bit up and high, and it did even fall down. And a reason why I also want to highlight this stock at the moment is, look at this, they have had so many poor earnings in a row. I say poor, but it's, okay, this one was quite poor, but it's usually below 10% and most of the time below 2%, which isn't that bad. Now, as you can see over here, the technical signals says strong buy. That is for the day, but then if we look at the month, it is still a strong buy. And we have 0 sell signals at the moment, which I have never seen before in a month. This is quite insane. Very insane. The analyst rating on this stock isn't that bad. The max is $33 and the lowest is $15. As you can see, we have 10 strong buy, 2 hold, no, 2 buy, 3 hold, and 1 sell. Now, it is what it is, but I really think this stock is going to increase. And I recently found out about this stock. They are in the future combat aviations of Europe. Now, they are a main contractor, which is quite nice. That is as you know, there is the planes from USA like F-35 and F-22, which Europeans, of course, can't buy. We can't buy the F-22, but we do have the Eurofighter Typhoon, which is the European-made jet. Now, there is coming a next-gen fighter airplane, and these Indra Systems is one of the main contractors, which is very nice at the moment because what is happening with Donald Trump? Nothing. He won't sell we won't buy his guns anymore. We probably won't buy his planes, so there is a lot of potential for stock that is creating the next plane. Now imagine Europe is going to have the same amount of air force as the US. Imagine how many planes and how many millions and billions of euros is going to be pumped into a stock like this. It is quite nice. It is very nice. Now, of course, you can see this year and the year it's performing quite nice, but it has actually been performing quite nice both in 23 and 24, up respectively 18 to 20% each year, which is quite nice. And if you look at the revenue, this is a very nice graph. They're up a huge amount in Q4, which is interesting because, as you might not know, Q4 is the smallest quarter of the year and is often one where people make the least money, but they make the most. They are below $1.5 billion every single quarter, and then they come at 2.5, which is insane, which is also a reason why they probably rose this much, even though they had a negative. This actually explains, as you can see here, we have this negative earnings here, but they rose a lot in revenue, which is quite nice. Now, if you look at their annually, you can also see their margins are increasing slowly but surely, and they are making more and more money. So it is a long-time winner, I think. Now, the dividends is quite poor at 0.8%. Of course, as you know, if it's below 1%, we won't go into depths. And as you saw earlier, the earnings they're quite poor. That is simply because they set their estimates too high and then they disappoint, but rather set them too high than too low. So yeah, very, very, very interesting stock at the moment. As you can see, yesterday it was up 3.8%. I personally think this stock within 2 years is gonna go up to 38 or 50 euros because it's simply in such a nice niche where we need someone who makes stuff like this. They make radar systems on ground and in the air, and they are the primary radar systems for the next generations of European fighter airplanes. Very interesting at the moment. I am personally gonna invest in this hugely once the stock calms down a bit. As you know, if you see my other videos, I like it when the stocks they flatten out a bit. I don't like these very, very sharp one and invest because chances are we might have a sell-off because people think it's overrated. So it might do this. Now, and the reason I put it there is because as you see, the last support lines we have, they are all the way down here. And of course, we don't want to buy it at $26 when euros if it comes down here. Now, I personally want to see it flatten out a bit, maybe even tank a little bit to around 23, simply because I want to get some of the speculations out of the stock. I want to see it flat out. I recommend you to always do this because you might see a stock and think, oh, let me buy it. It's at an all-time high. I don't want to miss out on any revenue. Always just make sure it calms down just a bit because it might increase $1 or $2 tomorrow or today, who knows? But I don't want to see it increase to 35 and then tank to 15 again. I want to see it flatten out a bit, maybe even lose a bit of momentum, because this way we know that we are gonna lose some of the shorters in the market. Now, if you also take a look at the SMA here, you can also see that the amount of space in between the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average is insanely big at the moment. That very rarely happens. The stock would have to lose around 50 to 60% to even have a death cross, which is crazy. So very, very good technicals, very interesting stock at the moment, and they have very, very good prospects because they are helping NATO and the European Union with their next airplane. I highlight this stock in the European Union as a defense contract that has been overlooked insanely much. Very interesting stock at the moment. I would recommend buying this to everybody I know. Thanks for watching this video, and of course, if you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.